We're going to just go through the district captain manual the same way that I went through with the state directors, how we went through the manual. We didn't read word for word, cover to cover, but I did highlight certain aspects of this. Write your questions down, or you can also go to the chat box and that question box and ask a question that maybe Michael can answer. But I'd like to have some questions at the end so that everybody can partake of those, and maybe it's something they didn't think of that then came up as we're going through the manual.
And yeah, and something to note, Jenny. There are folks that I just got a note that said someone already went through the manual. So it's really important, if you've been through the manual, it's really important that you listen and make sure that you understand not just what the manual says, but kind of the underlying concepts and purpose for it being there. And so this is kind of a reinforcement we find all the time, where we think when we train on a topic that someone or a team gets it, and then we find out later that we just didn't really communicate what was needed.
Right.
Right. Bear with us, and Ginny's going to go through not just what the manual says, but she's going to also really give you some insight as to why it's there.
I want to give you the spirit of the manual. And these manuals were put together by popular demand. We were asked by every position to provide a manual. And so these manuals are not to micromanage anybody. They're not to take away your creativity. They are not to dictate to you everything you should do. As a matter of fact, in this manual, it says, and I'm going to go back up again a minute, but it says in this manual, you will find a wealth of information to equip you to handle most situations. There's no way everything could get put in this manual, every scenario that would come your way. And every state is different. Every state director is different. You as a district captain are different. This is here to provide for you guidelines and principles as a template, and to also help you to remain on mission. Within that perimeter, there's a lot of freedom, but the main focus throughout this manual is our mission. And that is right here on your screen. The mission for the Convention of States Project is to build an engaged army of self-governing grassroots activists. That's you. That is you. And then we have our aspirational goals, which we shared a few weeks ago, but I'm going to share them again in case you weren't on the call. The people organize and restore representative government as defined in our written constitution. Restore a culture of self-governance in America, and inspire a political and spiritual awakening in America. We know that a political awakening will not last unless there's a spiritual revival that takes place with it. And so we want to be that light and share that vision of liberty and freedom in our country, as well in our relationship with God. And as we say here, and this is the paragraph that I want to be sure we go over, these next two paragraphs, because I don't want anyone to feel that we are abandoning the mission of passing the resolution. That's not the case at all. So your primary job as a district captain is to build a grassroots army in your district of self-governing activists. And as it says here, growing the grassroots to the point where they drive the political and cultural narrative in a state. That's a big goal. That's a big deal. But the goal is to change the way Americans think about government and governance. Now, we have to get the big numbers to overwhelm the opposition, and I think most of us know that. If we strive for that goal, we will make significant headway, because the one thing that we have learned is that if we pass the resolution and we do not build the grassroots army, we have not been successful. And I can give you 4 examples. We have North Dakota, Arizona, Alabama, and Alaska. Alaska came to us by mistake. They heard what was going on in Florida and in Georgia. They decided to do it. We didn't have anything going up there. They just did it. And you think, well, that's great. And it is good. But we can't build a grassroots army there now. There's why they've passed the resolution. They haven't caught the vision of the need to maintain a grassroots army. When we go to convention, we're struggling to build a grassroots army in those states right now. When we go to convention, if we don't have a grassroots army to put pressure on those commissioners to do the right resolutions, if we don't have a grassroots army, when it comes back to the states for ratification, we will fail. And so it's much easier to engage the grassroots army prior to passing the resolution. And we've also seen that without a grassroots army, we can't win states that we should have won. We should have easily gotten Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, Nebraska, Kansas, South Dakota, Iowa. Those are all red states, and we would think, oh yeah, sure, we should get those states, but we didn't. And why didn't we? Because the opposition was louder than we were. They heard from the opposition the fear mongering, and they represented those people. Then they were the ones that were making the noise. If we can't build the grassroots army, we cannot be successful. So we've learned that even if we pass a resolution, but we don't build the grassroots army, we aren't successful. If we build the grassroots army, but we don't pass the resolution in a certain year, we're still successful, because there's not one problem that cannot be solved with more grassroots. That's what happened in Texas. Texas failed twice. You would think Texas would have just, yay, let's go Texas. But it didn't. And it wasn't until their grassroots army exploded that they were able to win. So we have to focus on building the grassroots army. That does not mean we don't want to pass a resolution. We do. But passing the resolution is the goal. The mission is to build the strongest, most engaged, most activated grassroots army this nation has ever seen. And we can do it. You can do it. And you as the district captain are the backbone to the success of this. And it is not done by the effort of any one person. No one person is eloquent enough to flip people that are not willing to be flipped. I mean, we had great people testifying in Montana, Wyoming, and all those states. We had Tom Coburn, Mark Meckler, Robert Kelly, Rob Nadelson. We have them going and testifying in front of these legislators, and did they still pass it? No, they didn't. So it doesn't matter how eloquent you are. We have got to get the numbers behind us. I had somebody ask me one time, why can't we just get, oh, who was it? Anyway, some great conservative person. All they have to do is make a speech and everybody will flip. No, they won't. No, they won't. So it's up to us. And there's no shortcut for it. There isn't any one person that's going to push us over the finish line. It's going to be the multitudes of an engaged grassroots self-governing army. So as I said, this manual is not designed to be everything that you need. There is not everything encapsulated in this, or I'd still be writing it. It is there to give you a guideline and to provide you with a template to follow and to allow you some freedom of creativity. So there's a lot of suggested things you can do in here. And there's a lot of things that are required that are in here as well. So, so part of this is going to provide personal mentoring. This is written training, and then the COS University should be back up and going pretty soon. That will give you even more opportunities to become educated on being the best district captain that you could possibly be. So let's go over the responsibilities of a district captain. You are like the state director of your district. And you are to reach, teach, and activate the volunteers that are in your district. And there's multiple ways that you can do that. We go through that in more detail. This is just to give you the list of your responsibilities, and then the how-tos are further down in the manual. You'll be in contact with your state team, responding to communication and so forth, your state director, your grassroots coordinator, your regional coordinator. Not every state has regional coordinators, not every state even has a grassroots coordinator. Then you would be communicating directly to your state director. One thing you want to be sure of, and one of your responsibilities, is to continue to grow and educate yourself on Article 5. The more you understand why you believe what you believe, the better you'll be able to communicate to people. You don't have to be a constitutional scholar. You just have to understand the basics, and you have to know why you believe what you believe. So all that is provided on the website. There's lots of links further down in the manual that will help you with that as well. One of your main jobs is to build a personal relationship with your state legislator, your senator, and your assembly person. This is critical for you and your entire team to know where your assembly person and your senator stand on Convention of States. Are they for us? Are they against us? Are they on the fence? Are they uncommitted either way? When we know that, that helps us know how to target certain districts when we're going into committee for hearings. And we have some people in committee that we know are on the fence. Well, we're going to target them with a call to action. But if we don't know where they stand, we don't know to target them. You don't want to go after someone who may be a supporter and you're implying that they aren't. So it's your job to make sure that you know where your legislator stands on Convention of States. There should never be in any state any untouched legislator. So when you make contacts with your legislators, there is a way that you report that into a document called the LMS. And you should be given access to that, and you should have had training how to use that. That is your state director's responsibility to see to it, not necessarily to train you, but to see to it that you get that training. If you haven't received that training, contact your state director and let them know you need to have the training and access to the LMS. And that is, the LMS stands for Legislative Management System. So that's how we know if a legislator, where they stand. And if nobody writes anything in that document, then their legislator is categorized as untouched. And we don't want any untouched legislators. Your average time a week is about 3 hours. Some district captains put in more time. Others put in less, or sometimes you'll put in 5 hours one week and 1 hour the next week. It just depends on you and how you divvy up your work and the way you reach out to the people in your district. One thing that you want to be sure to do, and that is to become part of the Slack teams. You should be in your state, whatever state you're in. If you're in California, you should be on the California Slack team. And then you should be in the National District Captain Slack team. Your state director will give you the invitation to get into your state team, and they can also get you the access into the district captain Slack team. If you are not in that and your state director doesn't know how to get you in that, email me and I will see to it that you get into the district captain Slack team. That is a national access to all the district captains in this country. Right now, there are, we only have about a third of them that are in Slack. We want everybody in Slack because you learn from each other. You get to network with each other. People will tell you about a success that they've had that can be inspiring to you. They can share a problem that they've had that maybe you have the solution to. There are almost 1,000 people in the in the district captain Slack team, and that is a wealth of information for you to be able to absorb in that one. Now, one thing that some people have gotten stuck on that are in larger states, I happen to be in California, and the state capital is about 500 miles from San Diego. So any of the district captains that are down in San Diego have had a hard time with this, and we're about 500 miles from the Oregon border, so vice versa. When it says here, host an annual field trip to the state capitol to visit your state level legislators and give them information about Convention of States, taking along all the volunteers that you have recruited within your district. If you live too far away, you don't have to do it at the state capitol. You can organize a rally day at their home office, right in your own town, right in your own district, and take 2 or 3 people at a time. And you can go more than one time to visit them. You can take new information. If they're supportive, you can just drop in and say, hey, just want to let you know, here's some new information from Convention of States. And anything I can do to help you, let me know. And then if they're on the fence, hey, here's some new information that might help bring clarity to you. If they're opposed, which all of them are here in California, and yet we have teams that go visit all of those legislators all the time. They've gotten to know the staff. They know when they're coming, and they appreciate them. And they say, here's more, read this, and let me talk to you about it later. And they appreciate them, and they respect them for their professionalism and for their consistency and perseverance. So it's not just a one-time thing, but again, if you have to travel a long way, or in some states, in the wintertime, it's terrible. You don't want to try to travel in Wyoming. And so you just go to the local office. But that is something that you will do, and that is inspiring to you as well as to your volunteers. We used to take people down to the state capitol every year, and we got a room, and we did a 4-hour training session on how to lobby. And then we broke up in teams, and we went into all the different offices, and this was before Convention of States, but we would talk about different issues that were important to us. And it got to be where when we would do that, legislators would see us there. And one day I was walking down the hallway and I hear, Ginny, Ginny, and I'm, what, who? It was one of the legislators saying, hey, I want to talk to you about this bill. And I'm thinking, you're talking to me? But they get to know you, and they get to trust you that you're going to give an honest assessment of what the constituents think. So don't ever think that you can't make an impact, because you can. You will participate in the weekly survey that Michael was talking about, and it'll be like 4 questions that you just do ... answer yes or no, yes or no. It's not a time-consuming thing. It might be 30 seconds, but we need that information so we know how we can improve communication and education. Michael, are there any questions yet?
So far, so good. We had a question that I answered about the survey concern that it might be too long, but so far, yeah. And I told him it was going to be a quick thing. So
Very quick.
So good.
You don't want to waste your time.
Yeah. So we're good so far.
Okay. All right. One of your big jobs then, you already heard, is getting your legislators' heartbeat and building a relationship with them. Even if they're opposed to it, let them know who you are and handle yourself with dignity and professionalism, and they won't cringe at you. You're their constituent. But the next part is to build your team. You need to build a team, and you can't do that in a microwave. You do it in a crock pot. And it takes time. So it takes your time and your effort to devote in to other people. So you, as you're building your team, as you're getting access into the follow-up tool, and you start communicating to the people in your district who have said, hey, I'm interested on some level. Some of them have just signed the petition. Some of them have come in through Facebook. Some of them have come on and said, hey, I want to volunteer, but they don't really know what they're volunteering for. And you have access to all those people that come into your district. You have access to be able to communicate with them. Anybody that has a phone number by their name, not just an email address, but a phone number, you never send them an email. You always pick up the phone and call them. You don't get that many phone numbers in the follow-up tool, but you do get some. And any that you get, you want to call them. You cannot rely on email to reach people because we are inundated with email. The average, and this is really very generous, this is a generous statistic, the average open rate of any email, even if it's a personal email to your friend, is 18 to 20%. And then action upon that email is 3%. So when you send out an email and you think everybody's opened your email and nobody responded to you, I would guarantee you that at least 85% of them didn't even open it. So whenever you can, you always use the phone. And then that's how you build your relationships with your team. And it's also how you build your team. And it's how you're able to engage people more when you're actually talking to them than when you're sending an email. And how many of you have ever sent an email and thought, oh, I didn't mean to say that way? And I got an email the other day from one of my state directors, and she said, I have something I'm concerned about. Let's see, I have something I'm really concerned about I need to talk to you about, or something. No, it made it sound like she was concerned about me. And my heart just sank at first, and then I realized, oh, she meant to word this the other way. So a lot of times our words don't come out very well either. So you're going to need to know how to use the tools that are going to help you build your team. And that are the tools are learning how to use Citizen Builder, learning how to use the follow-up tool, the district dashboard, the legislative management system, I talked about that already, the LMS, and Patriot Games. These are ways that you are able to reach out to the people in your district, take these petition signers, contact them, and turn them into a volunteer. Take those volunteers that have signed up to be a volunteer and turn them into an assistant district captain. You want to have a team of district captains. You are the district captain, they're associate district captains, but you need a team. When you go on vacation, you're covered. If something were to happen that you were to get sick for a while, you're covered. You don't ever want the success of your district to rely solely on you, because circumstances change. We should always be working with somebody, building them up, so that if I had to step aside, someone else could come in and take over the job right away. So that's part of knowing how to build a team. And you've heard me recommend this book in the past, and I'm going to recommend it again. It's John Maxwell's book, Mentoring 101. And all that information is in the back of the manual, so on suggested reading. But any of John Maxwell's books are amazing. to teach you how to build a team, how to lead, how to mentor and raise up other people, how to think positively, not Pollyannishly, but positively, instead of, oh, that'll never work. Okay, I'm going to try it. So that's part of what you should be able to know how to use these tools so you can reach out, build your team. You want to be sure that you have a good relationship with your state director, your grassroots coordinator, and your regional coordinator if you have one. They're the ones that should assist you in training you and equipping you. You are their mentee. They are your mentor. When you have state conference calls, you should be on those calls and learn what's going on in the state. Some states divide their calls. They have, they call it an executive team. Some do, some don't. And then others have one that is inclusive to the district captains. So I can understand the tediousness of some when you're putting a strategy together that if you have 30 people trying to do it, it's not as effective as if you have 5 or 6, and then you bring it to the others for improvement. So your state calls, if you're invited to a state call every week, you should be on that call. And you should be on this call, because every week we provide some type of training for you that maybe your state isn't equipped to train you to do. So,
hey, Ginny.
Yes.
We have a couple questions related to the survey and to the manual, where they find the manual. So let me answer the question about the survey. Although we don't have the survey system completed yet, the idea is going to be that you will basically log in to the Citizen Builder over the weekend, maybe Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. And anytime during that time period between Saturday, Sunday, Monday, a survey will be there in the dashboard that you can complete. And so the idea is, instead of us sending you an email where it might get lost, you'll just need to, at some point over the weekend, just log in. Simple. Actually, you don't even have to log in. Once you're logged in, you should be logged in. And then you can just go into the dashboard, click on the survey, take 60 seconds to complete it, and then you're done. And that's the concept that we're working on, and will be, once it's finished, we'll let everyone know. The other question is, how do people get access to this manual? Is it part of the application process? Where do they find it? So if you could spend a few minutes explaining how that might happen.
Your state director is to be getting in touch with each of the district captains and going over these manuals with you. And they're to have it done by the 15th of December. If for some reason you have not been contacted, I want you to email me, and I will give you access to it, and I will find out what happened, where there was a glitch that you didn't get it. My email will be contained in the email that you receive after this, but if most of you know it, it's Rapini, Rapini @cosaction.com. So you send me an email if on Monday, Monday the 18th, if you have not heard from your state director yet regarding the manual. Any other questions, or do you want me to go on? We're okay to go on?
Okay, there's a question about, is the manual going to be incorporated as part of the DC application process? In other words, I understand, or they understand, that their state leaders will review the manual with them, but is there a way for them to get access to it before that, as maybe part of the application process?
Most state directors have gone ahead and sent these out for people to look at. I don't, if you email me, I'll go ahead and send it to you to look at. I don't see why a state director would have a problem if I did that, but yeah, let me know. But I would like you first to contact your state director and ask them when they plan on going over the manual with you. That's the proper way to go about it. If they should send it to you then. They have access to all the manuals, and they can send you the link to the manual and let you go over it. Most of them are giving you the link a couple days before they're going to go over it with you, so you've had a chance to go over it. Of course, now you guys are getting a sneak peek, so you're going to get, you don't have to. But he or she's going to go over it probably in a different way than I am, and the emphasis might be just a little bit different in some of the things that they're going to talk about to you. So be patient, and always know that you can continue to learn, and you can continue to see more and more in these manuals. In fact, we're asking everybody to print them off so that you have a hard copy that you can refer back to quickly, and keep it handy all the time. Okay, so let's move on to some of the things that you can do to grow your district, because a lot of district captains have said, I don't know what to do. I mean, I know I'm supposed to go talk to my legislator. I know I'm supposed to build my team, but what are some things that I can do to keep the people activated? Because I can talk to them and I can say, okay, you're going to be my assistant, but then if I don't give them something to do, they don't stay activated. And you're right, they don't. Why do we lose most of the district captains? It's because they don't know what to do. Nobody's given them an assignment, and so they kind of sit there and they think, well, this is boring. And so we want you to be doing something. And I've told this story before. Not everybody on this call has heard this, but I'm going to tell you again. There's one of the gals in my district started having decided to meet people on Monday morning at 7 o'clock at a coffee shop, and she wanted to just talk about Convention of States, and she started by talking about politics, and then it always revolved. Then she always closed it out with, well, the solution to all of this is the Convention of States. She started off with 5. She's over 50, and they meet, and they've been meeting now for almost 2 years, and they meet every morning. Every Monday morning at 7 o'clock. Over 50 people show up, and I think more would show, but the place doesn't hold anymore. And they go over, it's called Coffee and Politics. They talk about politics, and it always goes around to the solution is the Convention of States. And all those people are activated and engaged in the district. So you can do something like that. You can do something once a month. You can meet at the back end of a pizza parlor. If people just buy a slice of pizza and a Coke, and they want to hear you talk for a few minutes about Convention of States, we have a suggested agenda here. Some of the things that you want to be careful of is you don't want it to drag on too long. You want it to be about 45 minutes, an hour at the most. And you want to know your stuff and be able to have time to answer questions. And then if it's a reoccurring thing like every week, like Debbie's is, then you talk about a particular topic each time, but you always want to turn it around to where the solution is the Convention of States. So there are some suggestions on how you could do a meet and greet. When you're communicating to the public, there's some little things you want to not use, and that is acronyms. Like I used on you, the LMS, realizing some of you don't even know what an LMS is. It's that legislative management system. So when you start talking to people, ditch the acronyms and just say the words. Don't refer to your state director as the SD. They don't know what it is. Even Convention of States, we shorten it and call it COS. Nah, probably shouldn't. When you do start scheduling meetings, you should always do it at the same time. If it's the second Tuesday of every month, or if it's the first Monday of every month, or if it's every Monday, whatever day you choose, make it the same place and the same time, and everybody knows then when you have it. My suggestion is if you start having meetings, whether they're in your home, whether they're in the library, you can get free places all over the place. Just being a little creative. And one thing I want to emphasize, don't worry about the numbers. If you only have one person there, That's one person you get to devote one-on-one time with to capture their heart. And then when you get them, they'll get more and you'll multiply. Don't be concerned about the numbers. Be concerned about the hearts you're able to change. I was asked to speak last week to a group, a Tea Party group that is involved with convention, just getting launched with getting involved with Convention of States. And they said, you know, our numbers have been dropping and we can have anywhere from 3 people to 20 people. We just don't know. And how many do we have to have you come? And I said, 1. I don't care how many are there. I care about the hearts of the ones that are there. They're the ones I want to reach. And there were 12. So you know what? Those 12 people left inspired and activated. And so that's what you're looking for. You want to look for that one person whose heart you can win. So don't get caught up on the numbers. Here's the suggested people that you can invite. Always have an announcement on the website, your state director. You should have a social media team on in your state that would post that on your Facebook page as well as on your state website. You know, hey, in Fresno, we have meetings every other Monday at the pizza parlor, 7 o'clock. Join us, learn about Convention of States. Anything you can to promote it. Always ask people that come to bring somebody with them the next time, and some will. Look what happened with my friend Deborah, who started with 5 on Monday morning and now has 50. So you want to make sure you keep them at a reasonable time. If they're regular, you don't need a lot of time to, you know, it's not like a big town hall where you're trying to gather a bunch of numbers and get new people to come in and sign the petition. These are probably people that you've reached out to and that already have some kind of interest in it, and you're trying to give them, trying to educate them. Remember, our goal is to reach people, to teach people, and to activate. Reach, teach, activate. Always leave them, when you do have any kind of meet and greet, always leave them with a call to action. Always give them something to do. Don't ever just say, hey, thanks, come on back to the next meeting. That's not a citizen activist, just people that come to meetings. You want to give them something. You say, hey, call your legislator and tell him, hey, you want him or her to support the Convention of States when it comes up, but when the resolution is filed. Give them something to do. It's just like you. You're here because you want something to do. You don't want to just have the title district captain. You want to have the job. You want to do the deal. You want to see your district turn for Convention of States. And so give them that same challenge and that same opportunity. Here's some suggestions of things that have been done to help grow districts and strategies. Please take the time to read and go through all these. Again, we can't go through every one of these. I'm not going to read this to you. You guys are able to read. Getting to know your legislator. Remember, when you go to meet your legislator, they're just a person just like you. They put their pants on one leg at a time. They wake up with bad breath in the morning. They are just like you. Some of them are more like weasels, but you know, they're still human beings. And so when you want to go meet with them, you make an appointment, you go and you are polite. When you do not go there with a bumper sticker t-shirt, you know, like Obama, why stupid people shouldn't vote. You know, you don't make any friends when you do stuff like that. So you go in casual business, respectful of the office, even if it's a weasel, and you respect the office and you talk to them about Convention of States. Nothing else. Don't bring a garbage bag full of stuff. You stay on one topic, one thing. And you know, you may not have the answers. They might ask you a question, you know what, I don't know the answer to that, but how about I come back next week and I'll give you the answer. Well, you're a constituent, they're gonna have to say yes. And other times there's things they'll say, well, so-and-so said this. Well, they may say that, but you know, I look at all the people that have come and endorsed this, and I see these constitutional scholars, and so you've got John Smith over here, and I don't really know who he is and what he says, but I know these constitutional scholars, and they're in favor of it. And so I kind of tend to look that way and figure out why they're for it. So don't think that you have to go there and have all the answers. You don't. And never go alone. Never go alone. Always take somebody with you. Somebody in your district you take with you. You train them, you're equipping them, you're empowering them. You bring them with you and you let them watch you, and then you go next time and you watch them. And then guess what? They'll go by themselves with somebody other than you. And they'll do the same thing to where you multiply yourself. Never go and speak to a group. Never go to see your legislator alone. Always, always do it with somebody. When you hold a meet and greet, you never do that alone either. Always have somebody there. If you get sick, they can take it over for you, and you don't have to cancel the meeting because you've got laryngitis. Prepare in advance when you're going to go talk to your legislator, just so that you feel comfortable and confident in what you're doing. When you leave there, it is very important that you send them a thank you note, not a thank you email, a thank you handwritten note. And here's the deal. That might take you 5 minutes to write, and it'll cost you 46 cents to mail it. But that will go a long way. Anything handwritten, they value as equivalent to 100 people. When you send an email, that's equivalent to 10. So when you take the time to handwrite anything, that carries a lot more weight. But when you also take the time to write a brief thank you, that goes a long way with them. They're going to be more inclined to want to meet with you again. And it doesn't take that long, and it makes a huge difference. The other thing that you definitely need to read through are the legal limits on the volunteer activity. Michael at the beginning mentioned that our website is a C4 website, and the other ones were C3 and C4, and I could probably see some of your eyes twirling saying, well, what's a C3 and what's a C4? And these are nonprofit statuses that we have with the IRS. And one allows one thing and another allows another. The C3 allows only education. You can't tell someone to contact their legislator. That goes past the point of education. Your whole meeting can be on education, educating them about Article 5. And then you're going to leave them with a call to action to call their legislator. You just moved into C4. And C4 allows you to talk to legislators. It allows you to, that's called lobbying. And as long as you're not paid staff, you don't have to register as a lobbyist. If you're paid staff, you have to register as a lobbyist. But as a volunteer, you can go and lobby, but you cannot campaign. Here's the difference. If you get acquainted with your legislator and your legislator is a strong COS supporter and they want you to campaign for them, you can, but not under the banner of COS. You cannot wear your COS shirt. You can't wear a COS button. You can't mention Convention of States if you are campaigning for a candidate. That will get us in trouble with the IRS. And if you know that Citizens for Self-Governance is the funder for the class action lawsuit that we just won against the IRS. So if you don't think they're going to be watching every T we have and every I we dot, they are. And so be very careful that you read this through and understand it completely so that we don't violate any IRS restrictions on us. The other thing that we have put in here, as I mentioned earlier, is ongoing education. And there's different links to the website. Some of these links right now don't work yet because of this changeover from Nation Builder to Citizen Builder, but they will. So just be patient. If you click on them right now and they don't work, don't get mad at me. Get mad at Michael, not me. Okay, Michael? Yeah. Anyway, there's lots of good reading here. Our library is oozing with great stuff. And then never stop growing yourself. Always be developing. Personal development should be done no matter what you do. If you're a Sunday school teacher, if you're a librarian, if you are a nurse, whatever you do, you should be always developing more and more understanding and skills and wisdom about life in general, as well as your specific job. And so personal development is something that we should always do no matter how old we are. In fact, Michael taught me something just before we came on. And I said, the one thing I love about being as old as I am, and I'm a great grandma, being as old as I am, I still learn something every day. And we should all be doing that. Don't ever think you can't learn anymore, because you can. You might not be able to tackle with great precision everything that comes your way, but you can still learn and understand more than you think you can. So, suggested reading, John Maxwell's book, Mentoring 101. Imagine that. And he also has lots of other books on leadership and team building. And then another great book is called Servant Leadership, and the link to that is there. We have some tips on messaging. Always be nice, no matter how infuriating people can be, and they can be. You be nice. Do not go down to their level, whether it's a legislator you're talking to, or whether it's somebody that you've called that you think is that you thought was a volunteer, and then you find out they're not, and they get snarky. Don't get snarky back. You just become like they are. You just be nice and thank them for their time and say goodbye. And then we have, look how we said don't use acronyms, but here's all the definition of the acronyms that you'll hear. There you go. Look at all those. Here we have the flow chart for the state team, and that should help you to be able to understand how things work. And then we have here a signature page. When you are presented with this manual by your state director, you then will have 3 days to say yes, that you agree, or no. And we have had some that have gone through the manual and said, well, I didn't know I had to really do stuff, so no, I'm not going to do this. And I get that, because some state directors just recruited district captains and then never did anything with them, and they sat there and they, you know, and then they find out, oh my goodness, I got to do something. So that is the signature page, and when you do this, it's not electronic yet. It will be, but it isn't yet. That's not exactly on Michael's front burner yet. And so what you'll do is you'll print it, sign it, scan it, and email it to your state director and to me. And that way we have, excuse me, we have a copy of it. So that's all I have. We have about 5 minutes. Are there any questions, Michael?
Actually, we had a lot of questions that I have already answered. Let's see here. A few people are waiting to be contacted by their state leaders, which we will be taking care of. One thing that I think is important that we missed, and I missed early on in our introduction, is that this call is not only for district captains, but it's for volunteers. And we have a number of volunteers that are on the call, and they're thinking, I'm not a district captain, and I'm not sure why I was invited on this call. And let me just explain that although the district captains are what we would consider the leader, or as Ginny said, the state, the director of the district, the volunteers in that district are essentially going to do and be asked to do the same things without a title. And in other words, we want you to become familiar with your legislator. We want you to recruit. We want you to duplicate yourself and train others, and reach out to your legislators, and all the things the district captain does, we want the volunteers to do. And what we found is that there's so much to do in the district that it's not feasible to have just the district captain do it all. In fact, it's completely opposite of what we want. We want to build a vibrant community of activists that are working together as a community and a team. And so the reason we invite the volunteers is because we want you to step up and come alongside your district captains or become a district captain and help. And so the same training that we provide district captains, even in this manual, really can and should apply to all the volunteers. That said, basically the difference between a supporter and a volunteer is a supporter says, I support what you're doing, but they haven't taken that next step to say, but I'm willing to do something about it. I'm willing to help. We have a lot of supporters, but you know what? The job doesn't get done until people actually do work. And so and activism. And so the volunteers are that massive army of people that are willing to take action and do something. And so that's why we invite you, and we really, really encourage you to get involved, help your district captain, become a district captain. And basically everything we teach on this call, we're wanting you to do just like we want the district captains to do. So let me see, we got another question or two here. I'm looking for a clear notated expectations for DC reporting, weekly, monthly, and to who? That's a great question, Matt. Mm-hmm. Because really that's kind of a two-way street. We obviously need you to be engaged, but we really don't expect you to get engaged or be engaged if your state leadership team isn't helping you and getting you engaged by informing you, educating you, laying out the strategy for the state, and putting down action steps for all the volunteers and state leaders. So that's kind of why we put this manual together, to kind of get that going. Every state's different. When you say clearly notated expectations for DC reporting, let me just say that we would hope that you would do something once a week. Maybe it's get on a phone call, maybe it's on this training call, maybe it's make a few phone calls to volunteers in your district. Maybe it's have an event, at least one thing a week related to Convention of States as a district captain. And of course, the more help you have, the more volunteers you have to help, the more of a leader you become, and the more effective your whole team can be in your district. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that. It's we're about out of time.
You should be able to communicate to either your grassroots coordinator on a regular basis, or your state director if you don't have a grassroots coordinator, or your regional coordinator if you have a regional coordinator. But you should be able to report to them and let them know what you're doing. There has to be communication with the rest of your team. So if there's not, there's a breakdown and somehow we got to try to fix it. So that's where the regional director would come in. And if you have that kind of a situation, let me know and I can connect you with a regional director or your state director. We have ways that we can make sure that these things get done, that you guys get the help that you need, that you're in the lifeline of the state.
Amen. Well, thank you very much, everyone.